Today is a very special day. It's December 31st, 1979, and this will be our very last broadcast this year. In honor of the upcoming new year, we will go through everything you might have missed throughout the 70s, from music, major occurrences, minorities, and more. So stay tuned.
I think this is probably the first time this record has been played on the air. And it's about
The 70s wasn't just known for the relaxing music scene leading out of Woodstock, but it was also known for the upbeat dance music. Michael Jackson was one of the biggest musicians of this time period, along with Prince and the Beatles, who broke up just a few years back. The 70s introduced a new style of music known as disco. One of the most popular songs of this decade is Stayin' Alive by the Bee Gees. This style of music influenced people all over the world to create music and led to the popularity of both jazz and rock.
I think this is a song of hope.
Led Zeppelin was one of the biggest rock stars of the 70s, along with Aerosmith, Pink Floyd, and David Bowie. All of the songs of this time had deep, meaningful lyrics and was a way for people to express themselves, especially after the rebellion years of the 60s. Music was played on both Walkmans, cassettes, and records. During the late 60s and early 70s, women had gained the right to vote, but were still fighting to gain equality in things such as sports and society. In the 70s, tennis became very popular and was one of the first sports women took part in. Billie Jean King was one of the major supporters of this. Billie also is very influential in the fight for women's rights to equal pay.
I had to prove that women athletes are good, that tennis is a great sport, and help people to understand that gender is not as big a deal as people think.
Live from the Astrodome in Houston, Texas, the tennis battle of the sexes, Billie Jean King versus Bobby Riggs.
Men looked down upon women and thought that they should stay at home and care for the children along with cooking and cleaning. Women were still continuing to be oppressed style-wise and were not allowed to be as open as men. Many were expected to play the typical housewife role. Women of the 70s protested in hopes to be seen the same as men, and over time things progressed, but nothing major was accomplished. Men still saw women the same. During the start of the 70s, Hugh Newton and Bobby Seale established a self-defense group that protected the minorities of this time. This group was called the Black Panther Party. This group focused mainly on fighting for the rights of minorities and working to change the rights and social views and norms of society's views on African Americans. This group focused mainly on black nationalism and believed in violence to obtain freedom from white oppression. Their work was strongly based off of Malcolm X.
As black nationalists attracted a diverse membership, and the party's philosophy evolved and expanded rapidly during the 60s. As time progressed, ideological consensus within the party deteriorated and caused some key members to openly disagree with the views of the leaders. The stage was set for an up-and-coming Black Power movement party, which would later become the icon of the counterculture of the 1960s. As FBI director
Up until the 70s, anyone of Hispanic descent was considered white, and it wasn't until 76 that Hispanic was added to the list of nationalities. Technology created this decade both enhanced life and made it much easier.
Wozniak was the engineer behind the computers, while Jobs had the mind for business. The pair struggled to keep the company afloat in early days. However, they succeeded in funding the venture without ever giving up shares in the company.
On April Fool's Day 1976, Steve Jobs and Stephen Wozniak, both college dropouts, founded a company called Apple. In '78, Apple produced a 110K 5-inch floppy disk, which is much more reliable than the cassette. Just a year later, VisiCalc, the world's first spreadsheet, is created and runs solely on Apple, causing Apple's sales to skyrocket. Apple's success continues to grow, and who's to say what they'll release next?
The upgraded Apple II was first sold in June of that year. Ready to go right out of the box, it was a huge success commercially and is recognized for establishing the market for home computers.
In about 1/4 the time. A hot dog takes but 20 seconds. We put it on the grill, set the timer, push the start button. That's all. So easy and wonderfully quick.
Even though the microwave was created in 1947, a company called Litton created a smaller, cheaper, and more efficient model in the late 70s. Because of how cheap and practical the new microwave oven was, tens of thousands were sold, causing the microwave oven to become mainstream. Today, 1 in 4 U.S. households contain a microwave oven. These microwave ovens warmed food quickly and were easy to clean, causing a great demand for them.
Why don't you make the discovery I've made? Ask your dealer to demonstrate the Radar Range microwave oven, made only by a man. I know you'll be impressed. I was.
Atari 2600 was founded in 1972 by Noel Bushwell and Ted Dabney. This home video game console helped define the electronic entertainment industry. In 1973, the game Tank came out, which became the basis game for Atari. In 1976, Atari Breakout was released, followed by Atari Home Video Computer System just a year after. Also, by the same creators, Pong was created, which was played countrywide in arcades everywhere. Pong was also in malls, bowling alleys, and bars. Atari is one of the best-selling game systems of this time and has changed the gaming world forever. Here's a quick overview of anything else you might have missed during the 70s. The oil embargo of 1972. Since the U.S. chose to side with Israel and not Saudi Arabia due to their religion, Saudi Arabia then chose to no longer send America any oil. This was a problem because Saudi Arabia was America's main and only source of oil. Once Saudi Arabia cut off America, America had little to no oil, causing gas prices to skyrocket. Gas prices rose to up to 20%, and people could only get gas on certain days. After the oil embargo was set, people were no longer allowed to buy gas on Sundays because all pumps were closed. This greatly affected businessmen who needed gas to get to work every day, especially lower-class men who now didn't have enough to pay for gas. The oil crisis also affected working men on oil refineries, welders, and gas station attendants. Refineries now had little to no gas, sending some out of business, and there was less of a demand for welders since tanks weren't needed to hold gas and oil. There were now high demands for gas station attendants due to all the business. Car companies also may have been affected because when consumers are buying cars, they are more likely to buy a car with good gas mileage in order to save money, which also led to them selling their old cars. Nixon announces troop withdrawal from the Vietnamese War due to the number of military personnel death limit being reached of 540,000. The U.S. still does not admit to defeat, though. Due to Nixon's lack of support after the Watergate scandal, Nixon resigned and Ford comes into office. Paul McCartney leaves the Beatles, which leads to the Beatles' breakup. Disney World Amusement Park opens in Orlando, Florida, which is known to be the happiest place on earth. Blockbuster Video Entertainment, an American-based provider of home movies and video game rental, opens. A terrorist kills 2 and holds 9 hostage at the Olympics of '72. Rest in peace to them. Construction of the Twin Towers in New York City is completed in 1973.
Got a problem. Well, you know what? Maybe I got a problem, man. Did you ever think of that? Oh, man, hon, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. Unload. Actually, I'm cool. And that's how you do it. You have a problem, and you hold it in, man. Now leather up, fruitcake.
I have a problem, but I guess I'll keep it all inside.
That's it, everyone. See you tomorrow for the start of the 80s. Peace!